We were at church and there was a guy that we were chatting to in the coffee queue at church, and we knew him because he'd come on our Alpha course and he'd done a few weeks of the Alpha course, and we'd had some chats with him, and he'd shared that he was quite unwell and we weren't sure why. And when we were chatting alone with him in the coffee queue, he told us that he had hepatitis, and he had a lot of shame around the fact that he had hepatitis. There was a lot of stigma, and also the fact that he'd caught it because he'd been sharing needles. He'd had a life of being a drug addict, and even though he was clean, he kind of still had this hepatitis. And he was asking us would we pray for him because he was really quite anxious. He was due to go for a blood test, and the results of this blood test would tell him what course of treatment he needed, whether it'd have to be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and what the nature of it was going to be. And he wasn't looking forward to the treatment. He knew it wasn't going to be pleasant. So we were just standing in the coffee queue with him, and we just put a hand on his shoulder and we just prayed for peace, and we just prayed that God would come and touch him, that God would even heal him. And we thought no more of it. We just had a cup of coffee and a chat with him. And he went off to go for this blood test, and the next time we caught up with him, he told us that following this blood test, they'd told him in the hospital there was absolutely no trace of hepatitis in his blood at all, and he'd been completely healed just from that 30-second prayer in the coffee queue, because God is so good and that's what he does.